Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning in our new, more relaxed and chilled out vibe. We are going to be talking about quite a few things today, and we're going to start with the news that Hulk Hogan has passed away. I'm sure most of you are already aware of this at this point. He did pass yesterday, and it was reported that he was at the age of 71. We will be going into that, sharing my thoughts, as well as, of course, opening up the floor for you to do the same. What I want to say, I do know that quite a few of you are not going to have positive views on Hulk Hogan. I'm one of you. I do not necessarily have a positive impression of Hulk Hogan, but there are a number of different things in which Hulk Hogan has affected my life. I will explain why without him I don't think I would necessarily be a wrestling fan, for example. So we are going to just sort of allow space for people to share their thoughts, no matter what those thoughts may be. We will, of course, draw certain lines about the abusive nature of certain people who will undoubtedly come at this from a very negative prospect. So please keep it respectful to the other people in the room. But I do want to make it clear, whatever your thoughts are of Hulk Hogan, they are welcome here. That is what we do. Whatever your thoughts are. I'm going to start with that. We will be getting into more as it goes through. We'll be talking about some frustration in the Raw tag division, some changes to the creative setup. We're going to be going into quite a lot of detail, but I do want to start there because I don't feel there's a better place to start than what is pretty massive news overall to the wrestling community. Hulk Hogan has passed away at the age of 71. Hulk Hogan, until pretty much the final days of his life, was attempting to convince the WWE and the Republican National Party to feature him a lot more prominently. He was working, he was active, and he was trying hard to ensure that he was still in the public spotlight. The era of Hulk Hogan never ended. This is a man who spent so much time as the biggest name in wrestling that it does seem very clearly difficult for him to let that go. We see this impact a lot of other wrestlers. We see The Undertaker, who could not say goodbye, for example. So there are a lot of difficulties that generation of wrestlers had letting go and moving on. And it does seem like the pressure that he was putting himself under eventually told. I will say that news of his death has not necessarily been greeted as a wholly negative in the wrestling world. I still recall sharing reporting of when he returned to the WWE and apologized backstage. I named plenty of people in that moment who did not accept that apology and who would not accept that apology, had no intention of ever doing so. So he was a controversial figure and a proven racist, which did cause some additional issues. He was also known during his time in WCW to prevent wrestlers from rising to the top. With that, though, we also have to recognize the contribution he did give to wrestling. During a time when he was known to prevent wrestlers from becoming the big name that they could have been, he was also the driving force between WCW spending 98 weeks having defeated WWE, WWF at the time. When I first watched wrestling, the person who showed us was a big fan of Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was during SummerSlam build of 1998. That person got into wrestling because of Hulk Hogan. And because of that, I cannot say that my life would be what it is right now without Hulk Hogan. I can't say I ever particularly enjoyed his matches, but as I say, we can all share our opinions here, and I can see plenty being dropped in the chat here. Once we finish this part, I will move on, but I do want to say, while there are negatives that he brought to life, there were also positives that he brought to life. I will not be shedding tears. I will also not be singing joyfully. Death should never be celebrated. It's a very, I see what you're saying, Ken. It's a very conflicting position to find ourselves in. Death should never be celebrated. We will move on from here. I want to thank everyone for sharing their opinions. And as I say, I feel that you can just get things out here, and I want you to be able to do so. I will draw the line if ever we sort of clash between each other, and if anything's just outright needlessly abusive. Don't sink to the level of the racist, basically. Okay. There is a bombardment of likes coming in on TikTok, 690 already. We have 66 people watching on YouTube and 22 having already hit like. Thank you to all of you. I'm going to read through the comments at this point, and then of course I'll get back to the news. Our headlines today will be, as I've mentioned, frustration in the Raw Tag Division. We're going to talk about a confirmation of my reporting twice from Body Slam. We're going to talk about creative plans for Rusev, or at the moment lack thereof. We're going to talk about Stephanie Vaquer. We're going to talk about the complete garbage about Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte Flair at SummerSlam, which of course is not happening. And we're going to read out Goldberg's recent comments about Gunther, which is especially interesting when you consider what he's saying backstage about not going out in the way he wanted to do so. A lot of moving parts on this one. But as I did mention on Monday's show, we are changing the way we do things a little bit here. Previously, it was a case of get the news through as quickly as I could, read everyone's comments as quickly as I could, and then wrap it up as quickly as I could. I thought when it comes to YouTube, that sort of everything immediately was the way that it was done. And over the years, I've learned that's not really the case anymore. So, made myself a glass of cherry Coke. I say made, I didn't squash the grapes myself, you know what I mean. And I'm going to take a little more leisurely approach to it to make sure that you guys get answered a bit more thoroughly. Liam is sharing what is advertised for SmackDown. Says Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross is being announced for SummerSlam next weekend. Interesting. And also says advertised for SmackDown tonight, Alexa Bliss versus Roxanne Perez. They are particularly trying to pair those two up. It's quite interesting. Wyatt Six versus Andrade and Rey Fenix, which tells us they will not be on the SummerSlam card. Randy Orton, Jelly Roll, Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre to make appearances. And Liam has also mentioned a move for Jimmy Uso to Raw has been discussed internally. I've been mentioning this for a couple of weeks now. Dex, thank you kindly, sending the heart on the TikTok side. I know that TikTok is essentially the backup area, but I'm always very glad to see so many people on both sides checking in and finding the show. Thank you very kindly, Dex. Howdy, Sledgehammer, good to see you. Cal says, hey Tom, hope you and your family are doing well today. Well, the family were on holiday and apparently having a great time, so they're definitely doing brilliantly. Myself, yeah, doing good. Pretty happy overall. Hector says, celebrating Hogan and not Black History Month is a wild take by WWE. What I would say is that it's very par for the course of America right now. After all, the president is watching to see if they get woke. I don't know what that means either. Ladara says, what do you think is next for Jimmy Uso? I think he'll be backing up Solo. No, wrong one. I think he'll be backing up Jacob Fatu a little longer until Jacob Fatu can start forming his own combinations. Juan says, hey Tom, AEW is getting backlash for not honouring his death. Is it justified? No. It's ridiculous to hate on someone for not celebrating something. It is up to individuals and the companies thereof how they celebrate. AEW also got backlash for not honouring the passing of Bray Wyatt, who never worked for the company either. I'm sure Tony Khan will be listening to his people. Hello Sean, good to see you. Cal says, my mother told me if I have nothing nice to say, don't say anything. I'm going to be quiet, and I respect you for that choice. Liam says, per Body Slam, there have been internal discussions about holding the third match between Sheamus and Rusev at the Clash in Paris PLE later this August. We'll be getting to that one from WrestleVotes a little later, Liam. Sean says, hopefully those big plans of Stephanie Vaquer winning at Paris. More on that shortly. Ken says, this makes me feel very conflicted about his death. I acknowledge that he's a large reason why our beloved sport got the massive spotlight on it, but I just can't overlook his racist past. Yeah, and that's not a bad place to sort of settle. I do think we do need to acknowledge the whole person. And that includes the positive he brought, but also the a-hole person. I'm not going to sit here and say that he wasn't a racist. I believe wholeheartedly that he was, and so do many people in WWE. It's also difficult to look at that and ignore the fact that he did bring wrestling to many of us. Cal says, via Wrestling Observer News, the relationship between WWE and Travis Scott is fully over. Can't say I'm particularly surprised by that. I've been reporting on this one for a while. There was interest in pushing Travis Scott and essentially having him play The Rock in tag team matches alongside John Cena, but he simply never put in the work and wasn't trusted to go any further. Blue says, I grew up a big Hogan fan. That obviously changed as time went on. I know a lot of our heroes turn out to be villains, but a lot of like Flair, Hogan never stopped reminding us he wasn't the best of us. Yeah, I would agree with that. Dex says, Sean Ross Sapp really bothered me with his Hogan coverage, trashed him and detailed his racism. I'm still highlighting the racism because it is there. But went live last night to offer condolences. Yeah. I've, of course, want people to be able to grieve in their own way. For some of you, he will have been a very important part of your life. And I want you to feel safe sharing that. I want you to feel welcome here to share that. But I also want people to feel welcome if they don't have a positive aspect. Thank you for the rose, Dex. I appreciate that as well. SNH says, why has my tribal chief had only one one-on-one match since his return at 2024 SummerSlam? Well, because he doesn't really have to wrestle a lot. Bob John, there is absolutely no requirement for you to attend every show, mate. No need to apologise, don't worry. Ken says, hate the way most of the IWC celebrated it, though. I know most of them were doing it for engagement, which is disgusting. Some people will want to genuinely celebrate it. As I said, my opinion is that we should not celebrate death in any instance. We should fight death tooth and nail. However, again, I do want people to feel allowed to have their opinions. I would also say you're absolutely right that a lot of people are just doing it for the engagement, and a lot of people are attempting to profit off this situation. Cal says, also, Tom, Liverpool have me so nervous right now as an Everton fan. I'm going to get a lot of shit from Reds. Yeah, you are. And you're going to have to learn to live with that. The champions got better. By the looks of it, quite a bit. It's an exciting time to be a Liverpool fan. John says, per Fightful, Karrion Kross has told multiple wrestlers that neither he nor Scarlett have signed new deals with WWE, and they haven't even been offered new contracts. As I say, contract offers have been made. However, the WWE and Karrion Kross are nowhere near agreeing at this point. So they've not been offered an upgrade on that contract, but they were offered new contracts. Ray says, what was your favourite Hulk Hogan moment? For me, personally, of his pantheon, I would say the NWO turn definitely ranks as the greatest moment of his career. I did enjoy his match with Macho Man, and I enjoyed his match with Ultimate Warrior. That's all I can really say I enjoyed of his history. I don't necessarily think he was a good wrestler, but for the time when he was active, good wrestler is not what wrestling needed. Bailey says, one of the underreported parts of the story is how Terry Bollea became a character and he could never go back to just being Terry Bollea, and that is true. He struggled to be himself later in the years. He didn't want to be himself. He wanted to be Hulk Hogan, and he didn't want to let that go. And it did really get in the way of his life. Cal says, Goldberg wanted to go out with the belt. Yeah. Bailey says, people like Phil Brooks or Joe Anoa'i seem to have a life outside of wrestling, but Terry Bollea really never did. And this is true. He may have gotten a little bit addicted to the limelight, which I think if any of us were put in that situation, I defy you to find it simple to separate in that way. True, mostly all wrestlers from the 80s, you're not wrong, Diet Pepsi Lemon Twist, and what a name that is. Martin says, Tom, I have to say it, but stop spending money. What money have I spent? What is it you think I'm doing? Liverpool have a lot of money, okay? That's all it is. Let me know, by the by, if you are doing any Liverpool coverage at any point. I got faults. Wrestler Fan says, other than Cross and Sammy, what matches are going to be added at SummerSlam? There's a couple more still to come, but nothing major. Nick says, I think this is a perfect example of the importance of kayfabe. Hulk Hogan and Terry Bollea can and should be separated. It's a tragedy to lose Hulk Hogan as he was a wrestling icon. Terry equals problematic. I think that's a good way of putting it. I think that's a good way of putting it, Nick. That separation. Hulk Hogan, the character and what he gave wrestling, that will be missed. And there may never be another. The man behind it, Terry Bollea, that was problematic. Hello, Wishy, good to see you. Welcome, Kelly, good to see you as well. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. Ken says, really hoping Zilla comes to WWE and joins Jacob. She says, according to Corey, I imagine it's Corey Hayes, there's going to be a TLC match at SummerSlam. Any word what that is? Nope, haven't heard it myself. BM says, Tom, you're home whilst the family are away. Hope your family are having a good time and you're having a good summer. I am so far. Got a lot of painting done. You may notice this is blotchy, okay? This is only one coat. The next coat goes on, I think, Sunday is when I plan for that. If I still got enough paint. I might actually need to buy more paint first. Ugh. So much paint everywhere. Anyway, I have been able to get quite a lot done. I have been able to be nice and chill about it. And I have been able to get a lot more push-ups in. Feeling good. I've also cleared some space in case there's any in case anyone wants to make me do squats. I picked my moment there, didn't I? Hello, Martin. Thank you very kindly for a very generous donation. Says, was going to ask you to come on the pre-season predictions in a couple of weeks, if available, that is, or want to, always welcome. Appreciate you for that, and certainly I would be interested in doing so. I also think we had a lot of fun. But you've also donated £10, 10 English pounds. So what we're going to do is 10 squats. Nice and quick, nice and firm, bouncing up and down. That's not a phrase I should have used. Oh, but it's been a while since these knees have had anything to do. So thank you, of course, as always. I always appreciate it. And for those that don't know, for every pound, every dollar, or every 5 gifts on TikTok, we do a squat. And Martin is very generously gifted £10, which means he gets 10 squats. The record so far, 275. Had to make a separate video about that because someone did not fully understand how the transfer rate works with TikTok. A dumbass. SNH says, can Jelly Roll put on a 5-star match? No, but nobody's expecting him to. So, yeah. Bob John says, wow, Tom bouncing up and down, wrong platform. Wrong platform indeed. Although it's TikTok, so right platform. We have 71 people watching on YouTube, 34 likes. Please remember to hit that thumbs up. On the TikTok side, we already have 1,200, so thank you kindly to everyone pressing the button there. Ray says, Hulk Hogan was the one who got me into watching when I was a kid, when his iconic theme music started to play, and when he used to Hulk up in the ring. I was always disappointed when Hulk Hogan lost. Christopher Leclerc, welcome. Says Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair versus Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles is on Saturday, night 1 of SummerSlam. Appreciate it. And Paul says Travis Scott was pulled from 2K25 DLC after falling out with WWE. Cal says it was really good seeing LWO become #1 contenders. And we've had another donation. I shouldn't have said anything about the squats. Cal, thank you very kindly. Says, did you see the Wyatt 6 figures? They look good. I have not yet. That is the first I've heard of them. I will have to check them out. But in addition to that, Cal has gifted £2. So 2 more squats. You all are going to kill me. You all are determined. And you know what? I appreciate you for it. Because I do not get enough exercise. And for a time, this was the only exercise I got because I'm a lazy bastard. I don't pretend otherwise. I'm a lazy bastard. Right. Where was I? Cool. Thank you. Sid says Netflix has been developing a new Hulk Hogan docuseries. That's going to hurt. Juan says, agree, Tom, even when Tony Khan doesn't say anything, he still gets hate. Can't have it both ways. Martin says, I get the Hogan part, but the Bray thing was wrong, as Tony Khan says he's a wrestling fan, didn't he? Totally disagree with the stance. You all, once again, are trying to kill me, BM. Also, thank you very kindly, dropping another generous £10 donation. Thank you very much. I realise you're trying to put the period at the end of what you've said. You will notice, of course, I've not been reading that. I've been letting you go, letting you vent, letting people interact with it. So I'm going to let that continue. But I do want to say thank you. Thank you for putting it in a super chat. I appreciate that you do feel safe here to let go and let out. And I also appreciate everyone for letting you and embracing you. And that's what I really like about what we do here. So, rolling back again. Also, I've recently watched the Devil May Cry Netflix series. The intro music did not fit the show, but the show was fantastic. 10 more squats because BM wants me to die. Basically, I'm shifting to the right because I'm trying to avoid sitting in my chair. I've got a horrible stance. Try again, somewhere better. There, that's the one. So, that's number 3. And I'm now side on, which means I'm staring directly at the TikTok camera, and I feel uncomfortable. And I feel like I'm making everyone else uncomfortable. And when I'm squatting, I talk way too much. You might as well use me for Botchamania. I believe, however, that's 10, which takes us up to 22. You all are insane. Right, let's catch up with the chat one more time. Oh, Lone says, do you think Jack Perry returns at Forbidden Door? I do. I do also think he's actually one of the bigger names in AEW right now, and they need him. Bob John says, what would be your last meal if you're on death row, Tom? My mother's macaroni cheese. Weird, I know, but she does it really well, and it's redder than you'd think. I can't explain it. Okay? But it's redder than you think. Do you know? SNH, they made SummerSlam 2 nights so they can sell 2 sets of tickets. Thank you, Barker. Oh. Blue says, did you see what happened with Chelsea Green around her social media post on Hogan? No, I don't use Twitter. And so I don't see when Twitter does the Twitter thing. Because I'd imagine what happened was Twitter did the Twitter thing. Sorry, I do apologise. Kevin says, Kevin Nash is the only NWO still here. Indeed. Certainly the OGs. Welcome, WrestleTalk. Good to see you. Cal says, multiple sources behind paywalls posted how The Rock isn't planned to be at SummerSlam, something Tom Colohue reported months ago. Please, if you don't, please support Tom. Thank you very kindly, Cal. Appreciate you. BM says, I commend Chelsea Green for taking a stance and mentioning the less than positive aspects of Hogan. People should be entitled to their opinions. Kelly, also backing that up, says, yes, Chelsea needs our support. Ray says, saying, R.I.P. Hulk Hogan, he was my wrestling idol. Martin says, don't believe in celebrating death. It should be celebrating people's lives who died. Hope that makes sense. It does. I absolutely agree with you. Rickan says, what's the update on Austin Theory? That breakup felt super rushed. Is it a contract situation? No, essentially, they had nothing for Austin Theory or Grayson Waller to do. They always kind of intended to make them have a proper formal breakup. And then they just didn't give them any TV time for months, and here we are. They just never cared enough. And now it's a case of, oh, well, he needs to do something. All right, well, let's break him up. Terribly done. Marcel says, for me, I don't like the man, I like the character and what he did for wrestling. Blue says, I totally get why people are upset with the obituaries that highlight what he did for the business. That doesn't change that they are necessary. And Rin stating that Lex Luger making Hogan tap was epic. A very big moment for Lex Luger and, of course, for WCW. Ken says, I remember being a kid when the NWO turn happened, one of the truly most iconic moments in wrestling history. Kevin says, Karrion Kross needs say to the WWE, other wrestling companies offer me more money, that way WWE can pay Karrion Kross way more. No, what will happen is Karrion Kross will say, other companies will pay me more, and WWE will say, cool, go. I need to be clear. WWE don't want him to stay. I thought that was pretty clear by now. Great to see you too, Khalid. Great to see you. Cal says Liverpool spending money on Wirtz, Frimpong and potentially Isak. And Everton, we signed one striker and a backup keeper. It's going to be a long season. You haven't even mentioned Kirkes and Ekitike, Mr. Palindrome. Blue says perhaps like Flair, there was just too much Terry in the Hogan character, so the lines became incredibly blurred. Hector says, my opinion on Hogan is the same way I feel about Kane. Their characters have definitely played an important role in the history of wrestling. Terry Bollea and Glenn Jacobs, on the other hand, well, yeah. Glenn Jacobs broke my heart. He broke my heart. Christopher Leclerc needs Bailey at SummerSlam. The need. Aaron is asking if there is any truth to the Seth Rollins injury angle. I've not heard anything myself, and we'll find out come SummerSlam. WrestleFact says, I heard that Seth was meant to face LA Knight at SummerSlam. What does LA do now? Nothing. He hasn't got much he can do, to be honest. Chances aren't really there. Aaron says, great report on Cross. You're right again. Thank you. Also points out Fightful are taking credit. Yeah, they do that. You do get used to it. We are a very well-kept secret here. We grow based on word of mouth. I'm alright with it. What can I say? I'm a happy boy. Kevin says, Tom, do you miss your old home? No. I sometimes miss sleep, but that's kind of it. It's a bit more hectic here, a bit louder because I used to live alone and now there's 4 of us, so it is a bit hectic. But, you know, it's a nice house. Or it will be. The building blocks are like, they're solid. The foundations are solid. There's so much I can do with this. I just need an occasional breather so that I can work out what that is and what that looks like. So it's been nice. WrestleFact says, Tom, do you work for a wrestling media outlet? No, I've worked for a few. Worked for Sportskeeda back in the day. Worked for PWTorch for about 7 years, all in all. At the moment, I'm completely independent because I just like doing live shows and not answering to anyone. It's a nice time. Blue says we're on 11 matches now, 6 on night 1, 5 on night 2, maybe 1 more for night 2. Personally, I kind of think there'll be 7 on each night, but we'll see how it goes out. Typically, Triple H likes a night 2 of 1 less match, so it actually does work out at the moment. Sean says, can we call you the Squat King, Tom? You can, but I'd imagine there are better options out there. Wrestler Fan says, for me, there are people who are going to love Hulk and people who hate him. There's people like myself who appreciate the character Hogan, but don't like the human being. Hector says, 14 years ago on this date, CM Punk returned and debuted his Cult of Personality entrance for the first time ever on Monday Night Raw as Cena stands in the ring. What a horrible moment that was for Rey Mysterio. I mean, Martin, where's the downside? Where's the downside? I ain't doing squats on your channel. I'll do joint squats if we're all doing them. But hey, if people want to torture me as a rival club fan, we can make that work. Sean says, can we stop this Judgment Day winning the tag titles all the time? There are other teams on Raw. More on that shortly. Sid says, do you like the opinions of Dutch Mantel? I don't listen to them because why would I? Wrestler Fan is what I'm up to. Sorry guys, just catching up. There's a lot moving. Wrestler Fan. AEW did pay tribute to Wyndham by putting a graphic and even allowing a little Bray nod in the House of Black entrance at AEW All In 2023. I was there live. Nothing was done to celebrate. And as regards House of Black, they chose that it was not AEW. Cal says, Tom Collie, you bouncing on my screen? My money is well spent. Ray says, oh, no. Michael says, hi, Tom. Welcome, Michael. How tall is Bobby Lashley? Google is your friend. Michael says Mercedes retained her Rev Pro title. Bailey says maybe Austin Theory can be the next El Grande Americano. I mean, he'd have to work very hard. Someone like El Grande Americano, who's been sort of in the luchador scene for the past 57 years and still has a body like that, you've got to respect it. You've got to put in the hard graft, you know? Ray says, last night, TNA wrestlers said they're going out for revenge and to get both titles back. Then I'd imagine would imagine we're gonna see some people popping up in NXT. Cal says, I think it's fair to say WWE don't want to push Austin Theory, and one, I don't think they see that Theory's fans see in him, and I also think his attachment to Vince doesn't help him. It doesn't. The attachment to Vince definitely does not help the situation. Sid says, was kind of disappointed CM Punk didn't get a last word in there on Gunter. I very much wanted to see more of a back and forth between them. He was strictly keeping to time, and they do have a little more time to make it work, so they don't want CM Punk to have the last word too early. I'll remember that, BM. Roy says, will you be watching the Hardys versus a Team 3D for the last time? No, because I'd like to remember them as they were. Okay, so that's a weird troll. Juan says, Dave Meltzer reported Karrion Kross might be done. Tom told us first. Yeah, that's round best. Roy says, how's your Blue Sky going? I don't think I've logged into it in about a year. I don't miss social media. I don't miss it even slightly. Not even slightly. My life is considerably better because I don't go on social media. Yeah. That's pretty much all I got on that one. Bob John says, do you know if Ray vs Cena has been pitched for Cena's farewell tour? It is not to my knowledge. WrestleFact says, do you foresee a double turn in Cody Cena? Nope. Aaron says, why are they wanting to push Rhea? Her momentum is non-existent. Because she maintained the momentum that she's had. She's a huge name in the women's division, and the pops she gets are massive. Massive. Blue says, why do you think they're putting Kross on SummerSlam if they want him to leave? Because they want to be able to say to people, we did everything we could. Also, as I've said, there is a contract offer there. He doesn't want to sign it, but there is an offer there. Marcel says, I see you all on Monday. I'm going to sleep. Tomorrow I have the night shift. I'd imagine there was meant to be an F in that word shift. Have a good night, Marcel. Wrestler fan says, just to clarify on the graphic, they did it on the Collision before All In. Declan says, hi, Tom. Hello, Declan. Michael says, Dakota is free in 6 days. Guesses on where she'll land. At the moment, I don't think she'll land anywhere in particular, but I know that there's an offer from AEW. Declan says, any news on Becky? You ask this every time, and honestly, I don't know what you're asking for. What news would there be? She happy? She's settled? We know what the creative plans are for her? I haven't heard anything to say otherwise. I don't know, mate. Don't know. Blue says, best heel moment for Cena was challenging Ray on the same night he won it. Oh, and Sid's going to AEW Forbidden Door. Aaron says, has El Grande Americano started wearing platform shoes? He seemed a bit taller recently. Yeah, the stuff they can do with mirrors nowadays is so impressive. Next thing you see, you're going to see wrestlers flying, like energy. Cell's not going to know what's going on. Hi, troll and bye, troll from PM. Ed says, I should be there live for Hardys versus Team 3D. Not what I expected. And Christopher Leclerc says, Bailey's WWE contract ends next year. She ain't going nowhere. Declan with a hi troll and a bye troll as well. Okay. Cal says, do you think the Wyatts lose the belts today? No. No. King Azza says, Tom, do you expect Cody to lose at SummerSlam? Yes. I mean, you've gone into a bit more detail, but the answer's yes. Declan is sad for Julia's booking, but also really wants Becky Lynch to beat her and take her championship away. Cal says, I really see Jacob Fatu being world champion this year. Yeah, same. BM says, I noticed the interviewer the other day took his shoes off to look shorter. Yeah, that's a thing that happens. Ed says, this new El Grande. What new El Grande? Garbage is this? Andrew Naylor, thank you very kindly for following on TikTok. Good to see you coming over, mate. Good to see you. Says hi. Bob John says, hopefully soon we can see Ludwig Kaiser versus El Grande Americano. Quite possibly. I mean, I'm still waiting for the Chad Gable match, but Chad Gable's been injured a lot recently. Bailey says El Grande Americano is also multilingual. He's remarkably proficient in German. The man is talented. The man is incredibly talented. That's all I'll say. WrestleFan says, Tom, how long do WWE live events go on for? Because I'm going to the Liverpool show next month. Typically 2 to 3 hours. Blue says, I get people wanting more for Bailey, but she's done so much, had a lot of miles, and honestly seems really happy. And I think we all kind of figure Mercedes will be back at some point. I think she will. I also think it's possible that Bailey maybe just fancies a new challenge. I genuinely do. Eric says, is the women's US title a casualty of SmackDown going back to 2 hours? No. If WWE wanted to book it, they would. Ray says, do you think AJ Styles will show up at TNA Bound for Glory? I suspect he'll be showing up at TNA a lot in the future. Michael says, why does WWE start women's titles, do nothing with them, then introduce a US title and do nothing with it? The WWE, when it comes to women's titles, feel that they have been bullied. Vince McMahon felt bullied into there being women's tag championships, and other people felt bullied into there being women's mid-card championships. It is simply not something that the WWE remember to book, particularly when it comes to trying to book the tag division at the same time. Yes, WrestleFacts, I see Cena beating Cody at SummerSlam. Cal says, I also believe Tiffy beats Jade due to Bianca, and having Jade wins the Rumble, then we get Bianca versus Jade at Mania next year. BM says, I'm getting really angry at people accusing El Grande of being Chad Gable. It's disgusting. Leave the man alone. If that's the case, why is he still on TV? Chad Gable, as we know, is injured. Rickan says, do you see a push for Carmelo Hayes in the future? The future is a very long time. Ed says, which match would be better? El Grande versus Gable versus Ludwig, or Curryman versus Christopher Daniels? The difficulty you've got is I know who all but one of those people are. So I have to go with the first one. No, Declan. No. And Blue says, so you think Bailey is leaving? It's not even slightly what I said. I said she might be looking for a new challenge. That doesn't mean I think she's leaving. It just means I think she might be open to a few changes. Cal really thinks Undertaker is going to have a match. I hope to God not. Blue says, I find the mid-cards interesting because they're basically using them as you'd expect as TV titles, but then people seem to get really upset about that. One says, hey Tom, since you reported Gigi Dolan as AEW bound, do you have any news if they had interest in Elena Black, aka Cora Jade? Nothing has been said to me, but to be fair, when it comes to the world of Cora Jade, she's a little busy right now. Ginger Knight, welcome, says, good evening and catching up. Welcome, mate. Roy's more into AEW than WWE. Cool. Declan just celebrates Cherry Coke. BM says, I think it's just jealousy. People seeing a beautiful, talented individual like El Grande Americano. They want to hold him back. Fight on, amigo. Don't hinder the gender. Don't hinder the gender. It's an interesting thing to say, Derek. I've been told I have a good voice, and I appreciate that. WrestleFact says, if you were booking the result of the Roman J versus Reed Breaker match, who takes the loss? If I was booking it, Bron Breakker would spear Roman and pin him 1, 2, 3. Give it back. Bailey says, Charlotte is in the same career arc as Bailey. They are legends, but the division is getting younger and they don't want to walk away from all that. Bailey is giving back. Charlotte is starting to as well. That is a heel move, Cal. That is definitely a heel move. Ginger Knight says, Ari Hogan. It's hit me differently because my dad is between Hulk and Ozzy's ages. Fair, I get what you're saying. Ken says, if I recall, didn't Cora Jade recently announce she's taking a break from wrestling? Yes, she did. Paul says, why don't you watch NXT? Because I don't have time. I work a full-time job. I run a household. I look after my family and parent. I don't have time. Michael says, there was a report from Meltzer saying that more women want to quit wrestling for OnlyFans. More power to them, I guess. This is also the guy who said that during an Alexa Bliss segment, half of the audience walked out. A lot of the reporting that Dave Meltzer has around women very much paints them in a certain light. Cal says, this whole Becky and Bailey story to put Lyra over, they are doing amazing. I agree. Michael says, it was also a report from Body Slam about WWE not being interested in Paige. That was, to my knowledge, and I thank the person who sent it to me on Discord, that was a confirmation of what I've already reported. that she is trying to create interest in the WWE, but the WWE are not that interested. Rick answers, has Bayley been offered a new contract, or do you see her going to be with Mercedes in AEW? Pardon me. To my knowledge, there's a while yet, and contract negotiations haven't started. Cal says, Roman winning makes no sense. Both him and Jay have had 4 huge years of being the biggest names in the business. It's time to give back. And also says Tom has been reporting about Paige since January. Right. Bit more news then, because we got into that one. There is frustration backstage on WWE Raw, particularly around the use of the Raw Tag Team division. The WWE, while they've not had free hours, they have been saying on a number of occasions to the tag teams backstage in WWE that they're about to be featured more heavily. And the New Day versus Viking Raiders appeared on WrestleMania with the apparent intention of having it being a kickoff for a brand new, focused Raw Tag Team division. The teams on Raw are casting envious eyes over to what's going on SmackDown, and particularly the use of the tag division there. And a lot of the teams are simply not happy with how little they are getting in order to grow themselves. The WWE is currently trying to make some changes to appease those teams. The New Day in particular are not the most thrilled with their position. And Triple H has asked if the SmackDown writing team, so the ones who are writing plans out for the SmackDown tag team division, can pop over and give some advice to people on WWE Raw side. Oh, wow. WrestleFacts, thank you very much, has given 15 roses. 15 roses means, as you all know, that after 22 squats earlier, that's 3 more. So a big thank you to yourself, WrestleFacts. Let's get you some squats. That floorboard is loose. Let's get you some squats to show that we mean business. Thank you very kindly. Thank you very glad. And I hope you're having a great day. I also have here, the Body Slam have confirmed 2 reports of mine over the last couple of days. Firstly, the report about Paige and the WWE not being that invested in bringing her back. Somebody's been watching, spoiler warning. But also my report that Seth Rollins called the audible during the match against LA Knight to ensure that LA Knight beat him at Saturday Night main event. So twice now for Body Slam, somebody's been watching, spoiler warning. As lovely as it would be, and as much as it would change my career if people actually pointed out when I report things first, so many of the biggest names in wrestling journalism have so desperately guaranteed, so desperately tried to make sure that they feel justified in ensuring that my voice never goes anywhere. What can I say? It doesn't matter how often I'm right. If I've been cancelled by the big names, my career's never going to go anywhere. Oh well, we are where we are. I still have fun. WrestleFacts, I publish my reports here. This is the only place you can find the news of Tom Colohue. And this is where it is constantly coming out. And I know there are plenty of different wannabe journalists and actual journalists who watch this show and then report what I've said. I work hard and I share for the people who are watching now. I don't care about aggregators. I don't care about making thousands upon thousands of pounds. I care about informing people. I care about sharing, and I care about free press. That's what I care about. I take pride in my work. Thank you, Joshy. Appreciate you. Erin says if they are still thinking of bringing together ex-Bullet Club, they could have Finn help AJ beat Dom. I don't think that's likely, but they have a lot of options. They do have options in that. What I would say, my expectation would be, knowing that Cody Rhodes is going to be off filming, they will be pushing it back. Even though they could well do something with AJ Styles and Finn Balor, and I do think they will, the actual reunite has been at least pushed back because of Street Fighter. So it said if you could have a wrestling match, what match would you have? Probably a wrestling match. I've thought about this a few times and how I would play things out. How I would have, for example, an Iron Man match. How I would play if I was in a Royal Rumble. I thought about having a TLC match, but instead of trying to climb a ladder, I just wait for someone else to try and climb a ladder and then batter their knees with a chair. And then go back out the ring and wait for someone else to try and do it. Because I'll have you know, sometimes the best way to win a ladder match is not climbing ladders. It's just making sure that no one else is physically capable of climbing ladders. I'd be mean. Eric says, any news on Shinsuke's contract? Running down, running out, goodbye. Sad but true. Bob John says, good thinking, Tom. Appreciate you for that. Next up. There are no real creative plans in place for Rusev at the moment. WWE Creative are trying to come up with a refresh of ideas for him after SummerSlam, and this is why we're starting to see things come out about Paris. But WWE weren't actually expecting him to be available to them when he was, and they didn't have plans ready. The fact is, when he was released, WWE naturally snatched him up, but they weren't in a position necessarily to fit him into the card in a way that they would have liked, hence why he made very small sporadic appearances at the beginning. The reason he's wrestling Sheamus at the moment is because Sheamus was available. Ready, willing, and available, and in fact eager to put Rusev over. So Sheamus was eager to see if he could get banger after banger after banger, and so far, they've done okay. There is a rewrite ongoing with Rusev to make plans for after SummerSlam when there should be new names available to him. I do suspect we're going to see a Rusev versus Cody match at some point in the near future, but they will spend some time building towards that. WrestleVotes have reported, shockingly, that Stephanie Vaquer is going to be pushed. I cannot imagine what is giving them this idea, other than the fact that Stephanie Vaquer has been pushed for the past 3 months. Triple H has, however, told WWE Creative that Vaquer is not on a particular brand, and that both sides, Raw and SmackDown, should be pitching stories for her. The creative teams at the moment are being told to work a lot more collaboratively, as if there is no brand split, and make pitches with the intention of bringing people over as often as possible. When it comes to Stephanie Vaquer, Triple H wants her on screen at all times, and WWE are making sure that she is. And finally, while the Wrestling Observer is reporting that there was a plan at SummerSlam for Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte Flair, I'm reporting exclusively that that is categorically not true. The WWE has been booking the tag team of Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair on the fly, as I've reported previously. It was something that Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair asked for themselves because they realised after WrestleMania there weren't actually any creative plans for them at that time. So the pitch was made, we can work together, we can do backstage vignettes, we can do things that only take 1 or 2 minutes, and then we can start putting over the next generation. But there were, at the point at which they started the tag team, no other plans booked in for either of them. The reason they had the tag team championship match is because 1, they were the biggest names available, and 2, Liv Morgan was injured. So the WWE are essentially trying to ensure a push for Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. Bear with me 1 second. With this in mind, the match at SummerSlam is an opportunity to get as many names on the card as possible in a way that does automatically engage with viewers. There was no plan for Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte Flair at SummerSlam, though there may be at some point in the near future. Harris says, do you think we see Solo tonight, or do you think him being arrested was writing him off this week? Interesting question, Harris. What I think they should do is act like he's still in jail, have his entire entourage trying to find Jacob to get revenge, and then when Jacob Fatu is beating the hell out of them all, Solo Sikoa turns up. I know it's very classic, I know it's maybe a little boring, but it's what I see personally. What I see. So there's a few messages that aren't coming through. Bear with me while I get them up. Thank you, Harry. So the last one I read out was about... Ooh, bloody hell. There it is. From Eric. Sid says, do you like Jack Swagger in WWE? No, and I wasn't really watching at the time anyway. So it didn't suit me. Ray says, what are you looking forward to more, Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat movies? Mortal Kombat 1 was alright. Mortal Kombat 2 was ridiculously bad and not in a good way. Street Fighter was ridiculously bad in a good way. I don't know, but I will be watching both. The most recent Mortal Kombat I thought was okay. I thought they did well with the concept when you consider how ridiculous a concept it is. Your soul is mine and all that jazz. WrestleFact says, do you think Charlotte Alexa put Roxanne and Raquel over at SummerSlam? I do indeed, yes. And Harris is asking for predictions for War Games. I imagine the War Games will be Solo versus Jacob in some capacity. Cal says, the biggest names are so insecure, Tom's the only news I trust. Appreciate you for that. Bismo also says, Tom Colohue for life. Ray says, do you think Cody Rhodes will retire at 40 years old like he said he would? I think he very much could, and I think we're already seeing him moving into his next chapter with his podcasting. BM says, I saw Naked Gun the other day. Cody and Batista were in it. The latter is himself. Did you ever see Batista in What We Do in the Shadows? That's a great role where you're really, really banging. Michael says, I can see you inside Hell in a Cell. You want to take me to hell? I mean, if I'm going like full Devil May Cry, I'll have to wear my Virgil coat, which no, you're not seeing. No, you're not seeing. Bailey says, as the WWE put the rocket ship on the shoulders of Stephanie Vaquer, it's beginning to look that way. I don't think it's beginning to look that way. I think it's looked that way since she turned up after WrestleMania. Cal says, I think we get a Jacob Fatu main event at WrestleMania next year. Eric says, are they still trying to make Dom face? As I say, Cody being unavailable has slightly changed what they were planning to do. Huddle Talk says, I'm about 2 minutes behind, but you did not report that first. I'm not trying to be rude, but I heard it before. From who? Cool. If you heard it from someone else first, fantastic. Give me the source, give me a link, let's go find it. I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. Rickan says, who do you think goes over in the feud of Priest and Black? Hopefully Black, because he's just come back, but also Priest desperately needs it. And just Ken says, in other news, Fork in Kitchen. Fork in Kitchen. Ray says, I'd love to see Natalya have a match in TNA. And Paul says, what year did you start watching wrestling? I started watching in August 1998. So we're approaching 30 years ago. Cal says, I still think this Alexa Charlotte team leads Alexa to the Wyatts. Stranger things have happened. Ross, welcome, mate. Says, back to the start, Tom. Not a Hogan fan now for obvious reasons, but he is the reason I watched WWF. Named my dog after him when I was 7. The racism was awful, but he was initially a childhood hero. I think a lot of people are struggling with that dichotomy, that combination of things, because it is hard to juggle how you feel about so many sort of separate incarnations, if you get what I'm meaning. It's difficult. It's difficult. Hector says, if Karrion Kross is ending the near of his WWE career, what an interesting career it's been. Great run in NXT, main roster fumbling, getting released and coming back, and now a match at SummerSlam. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Cal says Cody's 39, isn't he? I'd imagine he's got a lot of years left, I'll say that. Ed says, who does the I Want Your Soul better, Shang Tsung or The Rock? Your soul is mine, I believe, is a more telling phrase. Harris says, do you think Travis will interfere or The Rock at SummerSlam? No and no. Aaron says, do you think Bobby Lashley and Edge are glad they left WWE? I think they're happy where they are, and I think they were never going to get the deals that they wanted in WWE. Okay, verify me, TikTok. What is happening here? I have to move a puzzle piece. There's a whole lot going on. Turbo says, I started watching WWF in 1988. Nearly 40 years for you then. Andrew Quinn says, hello Tom, hope you're well. Going to see Fantastic Four next week with my friends. Also seen the new Superman, it was brilliant. Also can't wait for SummerSlam next weekend. BM likes Stephanie Vaquer. Paul says, who has a better movies, John Cena or Batista? Both of them are actually very good. What I'll say is that Batista has a more high profile. But if you put Cena in that role, I actually think he also does a very good job. Declan says, who do you see winning, Becky or Lyra at SummerSlam? Becky. I think they've done everything they can for Lyra at this point. Like, that's unfortunate, but that's what I see. Huddle Talk, I can see you said you were 2 minutes behind, but do you have any response? Waiting for a link, a source, anything like that. Ken says, I'd say Batista has better dramas while Cena shines at comedies. Very fair shout. Cal says, I don't think it's the right time to turn Cody heel. I agree. And Rick answers, I think Lyra needs a heel turn. They're very much playing her at the moment as a bit of a tweener, which is interesting. Michael says, I hate how WWE uses Roxanne. Could be a bigger babyface than a heel. I think at the moment, the best way to become a big babyface is actually to be a heel, be very good, and then the fans will start to turn positive. Look at Dominic. Hector says, Goldberg confirmed he broke his hand during his retirement match. I wonder when that happened. I don't recall him ever selling an injury. I mean, he's pretty tough. He's pretty tough. I agree, BM. I reckon they will indeed. Bailey says, Women's IC Championship is no DQ and that screams interference. I mean, Bailey's right there. Cal points out The Rock was in the greatest masterpiece ever, The Tooth Fairy. And Cal says, look at Jacob. The crowd loved him and he was trying to kill Roman. Yeah, and people loved Roman at that point as well. Oh, I appreciate that, Alex. Yes, they will indeed, Turbo. And welcome, Martin. Good to see you on TikTok side as well. I'm just Ken says I have to disagree. Roxanne is a natural heel in my opinion. Her heel run in NXT was a game changer for her and she's just getting better and better at it. Christopher says, my predictions, Bayley will cost Lyra Valkyria the Women's Intercontinental Championship against Bayley at SummerSlam. Rick says, WWE gave Julia the title and now don't know what to do with her. Oh, Paul's sister and boyfriend are going to clash in Paris. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. BM points out The Rock was in The Mummy Returns and that was epic. I mean, technically, yes. It was an epic and a half. Thank you, Martin, for subscribing on the TikTok side. You also have a subscriber option over on the TikTok side with a few perks that come along. And thank you very kindly for the rose as well. Appreciate you. Cal says, can you lie to me and say Uncle Howdy will win all the belts? No. I'd love to, mate. I'd love to give you all the great news. But I'm a journalist. So I'm always very, very careful that I can back up whatever I say. Rickan says, do you see Tamatonga helping Jacob or Solo at SummerSlam? I think if he helps Jacob, he's going to be completely outmatched. Completely. The Rock was Declan. He delivered a rock bottom. Roy says, are you a fan of the Rock movies? Some of them? Some of them? Oh, Martin, thank you very kindly. Firstly, becoming a member of the fan club. And what I will say is that is the 5th that I have counted of individual gifts from others. So I'm going to give you a squat for that. Because that is a 5th. And then you also gave me enough for 3 more, which will take us up to a very nice, very generous 29. So, every 5 gifts on the TikTok side, another squat. And you know what? My legs aren't bad right now. The legs aren't bad. Thank you kindly for popping over and joining in, Martin. No, that's fair, Martin, though I do think this might be something you want to look at. That's all I'm going to say. Hector says, I think my fave post by a wrestler regarding Hogan was Shane Helms. He gave Hogan his flowers but said he's so conflicted because he knows people he's close to have been hurt by Hogan's actions. Yeah, I'm on my phone for this, Martin. PC phone. And honestly, the TikTok camera is just fantastic. Just fantastic. No, Carl, never. Oh, Sid said, what's that on your t-shirt? Oh, no, lost a piece of paper. On my t-shirt, it is a Death Star Pokeball. Because I'm a nerd in 2 different languages. WrestleTalk, thank you very kindly. Appreciate you for that. Very much appreciate you for that. Another subscription takes up to 4 out of our goal of 5. Thank you very much. Man says, we're on TikTok and someone else is going to run the TikTok so I can fully focus on YouTube. I mean, I feel like you're building an empire here, mate. I feel like you're building an empire, which is not a bad place to have. Kelsa's favourite Star Wars film? Probably Return of the Jedi. There's a lot going on. Ken says you got to drop the link where you got that shirt because I'm ready with my debit card. Just look up Death Star Pokeball, mate. Just look it up. I'm sure you'll be able to find it. Easy, Martin. We need a conversation about that. We need a proper catch-up. If anything, we should just do a YouTube show about how to turn YouTube into a business. But we have been live for an hour. I have covered all of my news. Thank you for your generous donations, for your time, for your conversation. Thank you for keeping the conversation civil and enjoyable. Everyone had a good time on this one, even though many of us disagreed with each other. And I appreciate all of you for keeping it about as good as it could possibly have been. So, I'm going to say a massive thank you. And say, as always, to everyone, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic. And I'll see you all very soon. And